all of whom are artists who are exhibiting in the exhibition, and we're delighted to have them with us today to have a conversation. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to ask the panel to talk amongst themselves, but before too long I'm going to ask you as the audience to get involved. Hello, I can see a few familiar faces up there. I meant you, Alec. I'm going to ask people to get involved so we can have conversation going, because it's a very rare opportunity. Ricardo and Destiny live in Melbourne. Kevin and Douglas we see a bit more often because they live in Brisbane. But to have all of us together in one room is a pretty rare treat. So I'll start very quickly by asking everybody in turn to tell me where they live and work, and well, I've already told you that, where you live and work, but also what your affiliations are to the Strait, which islands and family. Oh, do you want to sit forward maybe to... you sit forward. We've got to get into the microphone thing here. You being a rock star...
You've got to share, brother.
You've got to share, that's right.
He's a muso, you know.
Just one, two.
Okay.
I'm from Murray Island.
Can everyone hear? Yeah. Yeah? And Destiny?
Oh, that's it. Oh. I thought you were going to rave on. Oh, it's as heavy as anything. Do I have to hold it?
No, you can put it on the table if you like.
Jeez. No, it's okay. Oh, yeah, I'm from Eru, but yeah, lived in Melbourne since I was about 3 years old, for what it's worth. Did I pass it on? Oh, you got one?
They've got one.
Yeah, I could say more, but it's... Yeah.
You will?
No, I don't know.
What about you, Kevin? What about you, your affiliations and your background?
All right, so my name's Kevin. Family's up here. We're from Hammond Island, the community in the Torres Strait.
You have to be close to the mic, Kevin.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so my family's up the back row there, but they're from Hammond Island or Kirrawee, and from that we then have family in Murray, out at Mer, and the Miriam people, and back on the Western group in the Currig area. So I live here in West End.
An excellent place to live, I have to tell you. And what about you, Douglas? Can you tell us?
My name is Douglas Watkin, and I'm based in Brisbane, originally from Cairns, and I have island background to Darnley Island on my father's side, and on my mother's side is Madu. Is that right? Because they're in the audience. Okay, thank you.
And by the way, that just reminds me, I should just say mobile phones, iPads, any computer games off, please, at the moment. I wanted to start by asking everybody to say a few words about the work that they've done for the exhibition, because the practices are very varied. Ricardo, you work in sculpture and in music. Destiny in film and in photography. Kevin, of course, is a distinguished architect, and Douglas, a filmmaker, and now, it seems, an animator. So I thought I'd ask each of you to say a few words about your work, and you can see what we've got on the screen now, yes. Ricardo. So I'll pass it back to you so we can just talk a little bit about the work that all of you will have seen upstairs in the exhibition. There it is.
I did this shark. I was fortunate enough to go to Murray Island and source my material from there and built. It was a good feeling, yeah, building that in Murray. Yeah.
And the next one, I've got another one. This one's another one that you did.
I also did that, yeah, for the, I think it was Cairns Art Fair.
Okay.
And
how long have you been working in sculpture? Because some of us know your music well. Have you been working in sculpture for quite a while?
I like working in pottery, wood, but I went into turtle shell sculpture by accident. I like it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll come back to turtle shell. Cool. And what about, I thought I might pass on to Destiny. I know. I've got some images of the...
How come you're wearing one of those things? I've got to hold this heavy thing.
I don't know. We don't have enough to go around. Just lucky, I guess.
Okay.
If you sit forward a little bit further, and it'll probably be easy.
And just talk into it.
Yeah, that could work well.
I've had that before. Okay. Well, I've been a photographer basically I started in 1990, and I've been in the game, I don't know.
21 years?
Well, yes. It seems like yesterday, you know. And basically photography, and got into installation, performing. I can perform, believe it or not, but I get all nervous today. But and that kind of thing. Yeah, and the work in the show is basically, I don't know, coming to terms with, I don't know, being from Erub and family that live in Melbourne that are from Erub, and we still have our culture, and we still, all the stories. Our mum died in 1996, but she taught us since we were little and stuff, whether we liked it or not. She forced it on us and wanted to teach us the lingo and the dancing and the this, that and the other, and Mum, we want to watch Mickey Mouse, and all that kind of thing. So that's how old I am, and that kind of thing. But it's always been there, and the people have always been there. Islanders on the run too, the other islands too, not just Erub, I add, and things like that. So it's just always been part of that. And but being able to find some footage, my friend Virginia Fraser, who was doing a, what's it called?
Fellowship, we agreed it was called.
In Canberra, the
National Film and Sound Archive.
Yeah, and she found something in a drawer. She was doing something about women in film in the olden days, silent movies or something, that were technicians or something. And I don't know if anyone's interested in that, but she found this Arab sort of film laying there, and she's Darley Island said, and she thought, oh, Destiny might be interested in this. And then I thought maybe I can do something with it and just bring those people alive and make them like, you know, that they're real rather than just these sort of silent sort of images, giving bananas to a person. And then I made some images of my family in Melbourne, which are they're all party girls and stuff and party boys and stuff, but just, yeah, still aware of their culture and yeah, wearing the Marys and doing that sort of caper.
They're up on the screen now wearing the
Okay.
Marys.
Yeah.
And here are the hands.
I know, and some people call them Mother Hubbards and stuff, but they're I don't know, Mum called them Marys and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. And I suppose it goes back to the religion and that, you know, Mary and Joseph. And anyway, we used to run around the nut, I think, originally, but yeah, the missionaries made us cover up our gorgeous bodies and stuff and made us, yeah, wear the Marys and stuff. Okay, next one.
I've just got a couple more pictures to show.
Okay.
My favourite little girl from your family.
Yeah. I sometimes I use dolls and this, that and the other, but it's usually family and friends and stuff. And yeah, and these are, you know, they're groovy girls, and that's how old-fashioned I am. They're cool cats and stuff, and yeah, to put on their Marys and stuff, it's that, you know, it's like, oh, do we have to? And oh, you know, they think it's really daggy and stuff, and I said, come on, give it a go, you know. And yeah, they did. Yeah, it's hard, yakka, believe it or not, just to get them to put on those frocks, because those frocks are sort of like, you know, it's like, I don't know, what the missionaries forced us into and stuff like that. But they all got frocks, and, you know, they had to find them in the bottom of the drawer or in a shoebox on the top of the wardrobe or something.
And they did it for you.
Oh, well, I begged them.
It worked. Now we've got, actually, that one's out of order. Sorry. We've got Douglas. We've got Kevin now. We've got Kevin. One of my slides got out of order, sorry. So, Kevin, can you talk to us a bit about your work, the family tree?
Yeah, so this, I guess the idea of the family tree is that it's quite literally trying to plot in 3 dimensions my bloodline and who I can claim my ancestry is, and it's a very important thing to people worldwide, I think, but it's also part of an alternative politic I've been pursuing in my architectural work, and it's trying to understand country and where you are when you're in Australia and whose country you're in, and a way into that is to understand whose family you're of and part of, so that lets you know where you are, whether you're a visitor or a guest, who you should be paying your respects to. So in that way it meant I could understand in our family in the Torres Strait that we had, depending on how I trace the lines, there's Korag ancestry and there's also Miriam ancestry. So I think it's also the first 3-dimensional family tree that works from the oldest at the bottom to the youngest at the top. So my 2 daughters are at the top, so they, little Maeve and Una,
Yeah.
understand what they're also part of. They also have Irish genealogy as well.
So it's actually, instead of doing it, as you described at one stage, flat on a page, as family trees often are in European
Yep.
texts, this is actually a full three-dimensional modelling.
It is, yeah. And we actually, I don't claim to be an artist because I don't have the same level of courage as artists do. But as an architect, we came up with the idea and actually documented it for the guys downstairs in the workshop in the same way that we would document any architectural work. There was drawings, there was plans and sections and ideas and negotiations, and dimension drawings and set number of meetings, and it was all very professional in that way, which was great, working with Warren and the guys downstairs who are unbelievable and deserve a pay rise, Tony.
I just wanted to, I haven't got the photograph of the original family tree, but it's in the catalogue, but we worked with you to make a portal or an entry to the exhibition as a whole. So what made you think of going back to the family tree on Kirui?
I think it was probably just the discussions that happened with people here at the gallery and just where it ended up. I felt very uncomfortable trying to occupy the space of an artist, and it doesn't help having Richard Bell telling me other things as well, so I won't claim to be an artist at all, but just the idea that you do something as an architect would kind of imply that you're doing something that's a part of how you think in your work.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, it's an architectural piece. It's actually one of the premise in which we base all our work in the studio. And it also ends up in this other argument around the difference between terra nullius or a blank site or a blank piece of paper, and the idea that you have country and that you can generate architecture out of country, whether it's for black or white people. So it's a much bigger conspiracy, I think.
Or convergence. And then Douglas, I've got, there it is. There, it's coming now. I did have it. The family tree.
Yeah.
Sitting out on the beach, yeah?
Yeah, so the idea, I guess, again, in literal terms, is that it's this is on Kirui, on Hammond, and it's in front of, not in front of Nana's place. Who is it, Mum? Uncle John and Auntie Rita's place there. So it's an almond tree, and it's just it's the most beautiful spot because it's the setting that you can sit around in, have a fire, look out at the water, and just while the time away. But the size of that thing upstairs is commensurate with that, and it's a 1:1 scale, so it's not a big thing or a small thing. It's just when you're standing in that tree, it's just all around you. So I kind of imagine trying to understand in that way. I'd go home every sort of year how massive the family were. I mean, they're like rabbits; they're just everywhere, and I can't remember everyone. And maybe because they're Catholic or something. But it was hard to understand who was who, and I'd try and remember that one from this, and then every trip you'd find out something different, and
there it is.
It's a way to remember.
Fantastic. A Torres Strait Memory Theatre. Okay, Douglas, it's you. I've got an image up that shows, really, to have on one screen what took you and your cast and crew months and months and months to do must be fairly astonishing. But can you talk to us a little bit about why you decided to make The Queen and I for this particular show?
Yeah, that's a very old photo.
How about that one? Is that a bit newer?
Yeah, that's a little bit better, yeah. Must stress to people, it is a moving piece. I guess it's very hard to talk about a still image from my perspective, since my piece actually encompasses not just still images, but moving and sound, actors, music, and vision. So it encompasses, I guess it's hard. You don't happen to have a copy of the moving thing anywhere, just the stills?
I don't think I do, unless Gudo or the others do.
I guess if you go back to the first slide. Okay. Yep, that's great. This was like a maquette, like the genesis of the Queen and I. Where it began was, obviously, this was my mother and father's story, based on, well, the names have been changed to protect the embarrassed, and poor thing, mum's under the flu at the moment, poor thing, hope she gets better. The Queen and I always wanted to make, most of you people may know me as a documentary filmmaker, working for ABC Mr. Stick and all that stuff, and travelling and doing wonderful stories. And I guess doing the Queen and I, for me, I always wanted to make the Queen and I guess, a live action piece, but obviously just looking at the models, well, one, you're dealing with a 1950s period piece, two, you need a cast of over thousands, so I guess making it a short live action film would be the most expensive short film of all time in this country. So I decided, my artist and I, it was funny because we were designing concept designs for the Queen and I to pitch for a live action until we spoke with the gallery in trying to make this piece, how would you say, more of a, they like the idea of the whole graphic notion of telling the story through graphic illustrations. So I guess for us making the Queen and I, even though it wasn't a live action, it was a new avenue for me to, especially to go into animation, not having done it before. So not just, so I approached it like any normal film, as if it was live action, like doing with actors or whatever, but also just the whole process, like when we would get a drawing like from, you know, the artist would get one cell and then it would take us like a week to animate or move, you know, a particular image. On top of that, we had to deal with actors who were acting to nothing because none of the actors couldn't see what they were, like, they didn't know what the characters looked like because we hadn't developed it yet because we were still drawing it. So it was like a constant, like a juggling act between getting these poor actors to pretend what the Queen and I looked like, even though they didn't see what they would look like. And at the same time, we were still developing, you know, the technology and also the drawings. Because the thing with live action for me is you can direct a character or a person, you know, through face, because the face is moving or the image is moving. With stills or comic book art, you're not dealing with the moving image. Okay, like that's it. So obviously we had to, you know, change the story to fit, you know, the medium that we were using. I am tangenting off at the moment. I don't know if I'm still on task.
Yeah, that's good. That's.
Yeah. So again, must I stress, like, the image is supposed to be moving like that. But what we wanted to give was a sense of the 1950s. So the graphic kind of style we wanted to, how would you say, pay homage to was like the 1950s, like Phantom comics. I don't know, you know, like back in the day or whatever. And we kind of aged it to make it look, you know, very dark, but also it's an interesting fusion of, how would you say, like kind of dark Gothic art with this interesting cultural story shoved underneath, which was, yeah, so that was a challenge. Because a lot of people, even the poor actors not seeing the actual vision, they said, wow, wow, it's a very dark story. I said, what, as in like black? No. No, just like the imagery is very stark and all that. If not, Sean Olive, the artist, I describe his work as being beautifully ugly, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Indeed it does. I mean, yes, you're right about the dark aspects, because when the military come to the door, she's it's that beautifully comic moment where your grandmother's afraid that he's going to be taken away to war, and of course it was 1954, so everyone was scared about.
Yeah, well, it was just after the Korean War. You see, at the time. So
Another
I just
conflict.
wanted to add that whole
Aspect to it.
But also I'm a big fan of film noir, kind of black and white films as well. So yeah, so just wanted to add that.
I think it comes out. One of this particular panel is actually called Mainland, and of course, as we said at the beginning, all of you are Torres Strait Islander heritage, imbued with Torres Strait Islander culture, are living and working on the mainland, as do the vast majority of people in Australia, Australians of Torres Strait Islander heritage. And I'm getting a nod up there from Dr. Felicia Watkin Louis, who's Douglas's sister, whose PhD on the diaspora I consulted when I was researching for the conversation. The conversation was joined by three other artists, Janet Fieldhouse, Clinton Nain, and the seventh name is going to escape me for a minute, which is absolutely shocking. But what we did for the catalogue was to convene an email conversation, which was...
Ellen Jose, wasn't it?
Ellen Jose.
Yeah.
Ellen Jose is the seventh. Fantastic artist. So all the seven very kindly agreed to give us their thoughts about what it meant to be a mainlander. And I just printed out the questions just to that we had in the catalogue, just to give an idea for the rest of the conversation. So I asked them, you know, it's clear that your work as artists, filmmakers and architecture is informed by your heritage and that you all identify with it. So I wanted to ask people, and they very kindly answered, how the Torres Strait Islander heritage was manifest in the work. So at this stage I'd like to throw to anyone on the panel to answer and to respond to that question, how the Torres Strait Islander experience and heritage is manifested in the art. And we should ask you, Ricardo, you've been silent for a while.
The best muso in Australia, anyway.
Yeah,
Hasn't got into guitar.
manifested my well. When I sort of didn't answer that question. How I came to do masks, so I had to think about it.
Okay.
But that drove. I used to like painting, but what drove me to do masks is simply racism. I could not fit in anywhere. I mean, it made me step back, look at my own history, look at how my ancestors made art, and I wanted to learn, learn the history, and that, going away to Melbourne even made it more, because it was I worked on memory, and one of my thing is when I'm doing work, I sing as well, and words come to me, and I'm singing. I could be singing a dance song, and I just create my own songs while I'm doing the masks, and it's working on memory, going back home, talking to people. Like I just half an hour ago, I went to Cigar's talk. That was really emotional for me, because the two of us grew up in a communal house where we had grandparents and uncles and that. He was the painter. And I was learning from him. He used to go and paint tombstones and things, and he hasn't stopped. And but I was his little brother. We had a communal house, and it was good to see him today. But I had to leave and go to Melbourne to do things, and doing those work back home was really, because he lives next door to me now. He put his house next door, and it only took me a couple of days to finish the shark. And I had it down the beach. I'm swimming with it. And when I go to Melbourne, it's in my mind. It's in my head. Yeah.
So it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's a whole lifetime.
It's better than a photograph.
Yeah, it is to have it.
Sorry?
Don't up
Yeah.
photos. They're fun words.
You can change it in your head. So
He says you can change it in your head.
every time you.
We won't talk about that. But I mean, so it's a great question. I mean, well, I thought it was a good question, and you were all very interesting about how the work relates to being a person of Torres Strait Islander background and heritage.
Yeah.
Who else wants to take that up?
Oh, I might as well go
Yeah.
illustrate. I'm an old teacher by trade, so just go one this way. But yeah, I don't know. I just grew up knowing my history and my culture. But in those days in Melbourne, I'm talking chewy out the mouth, in the late 50s and stuff, you were just black, and my mum was black as the ace of spades, and people just used to stop in the streets and say, ooh, and point and stuff like that, and, like we would, ooh, and stuff like that. I'm glad Australia's changed so much now, but it was sort of like weird and stuff. So a lot of my work comes from racism and stuff like that, and plus with the Koori community in Melbourne, which is very strong and very inviting and friendly to outsiders and Torres Strait Islanders on the run, and which we have a lot that come to Melbourne to get away from their horrible families or something, or they might be, true, or the gay boys or the gay girls, things like that, to get away, and all people that come there to work and stuff like that. It's a very inviting, accepting community and things like that. And it's also Melbourne is a very political community where, with the Indigenous life, and there's lots of activities and things for people to find a new life and to, feel welcome and to get that strength, and that's really important, and I'm proud to come from Melbourne, but, I grew up with the heritage and stuff and what have you. Oh, can I just say this? Poor old mum, she's been dead since 1996 from cancer. She lived to be 62, but, there'd be a documentary about New Guinea, and she'd, and she'd, and they'd be all savvy this and savvy that, and she'd just love it, the lingo and just to have that, just to hear the stuff, and even though it wasn't Torres Strait, because there's nothing on the TV about our people and stuff like that, and mum sort of just think, gee, this is great. And also, anybody that came from the Torres Strait, they were welcome in our home, and they got a leg up, more than that probably, and to feel welcome and be part of the community in Melbourne and stuff like that, and it's still happening with my family today, with people that, from the Torres Strait, that I'm not saying everyone's on the run. People actually have jobs and very respectable in the public service or what have you. Well, that's what they tell me, and and the heritage is there, and all that sort of stuff. I know a few bits of the lingo and stuff like that, but we just speak English these days and stuff. But I get it and stuff. But but basically, I don't know. I come from a point of racism, and just because we're black and because we're treated differently, and because we're Indigenous, and that's also part of the Koori community in Melbourne too. There's still that struggle for land rights and this, that, and the other happening, and that's where we get our, that's how we unite, and also in the arts too. It's also right around Australia. Where as Indigenous artists that we are one, and we are fighting to get our story told to everybody, and it's great that we get a chance to be in galleries and stuff like that if we're lucky.
I had another question that was no. It's
Look at me.
No. So now we're going that way. But the second question I asked you in the book, and I suddenly thought I should chuck it in now, really, because I asked you about heritage, and you and Ricardo have spoken about that. But I also asked about how the work negotiates issues of identity, and I thought I should throw that in right now, because it's part of the same conversation. In fact, just what it means to be a Torres Strait Islander person and how you work from that and in that.
You're talking to me?
No, I'm talking to the whole crew of you.
Oh, no, but I'm just saying, like, people like Ricardo and there's other ones that, from Cairns or Townsville or what have you, from the pointy bit of Australia. The muso scene, the theatre scene, dancers, the culture, just not the visual arts. And, there's... we all sort of know each other and stick together, and I don't know, it's like a renaissance of things. It's only been like the last 20 years or something that people have got together, and we're making each other strong, and we share and care for each other for what it's worth.
I'm sure it's worth a lot. And Kevin, you're the next one along the line.
Sure. I think the identities. It's a big question, because there's a whole spectrum of how people identify and the right they do to or hold to identify as well. So I think we've got the communities who are living back in the Torres Strait, on the islands, and closer access in some ways to traditional aspects of the culture. There's a whole other group of people like ourselves who have grown up in the cities, I guess, and we only go back maybe annually to sort of catch up on things. But irrespective of that, it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be different ways to express that culture. So we can have some very fine traditional artwork upstairs, or craft work, and at the other end we can have like this animation, for instance, which I haven't seen yet, but it's just, it's such, you couldn't imagine that 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So that's the first thing around identity. The second for me directly is that every year of growing up, knowing that I was from that place and the smell of the place, there's a particular kind of smell of the salt salt water there around Hammond and TI and getting off at Horn and just the heat. It's very peculiar to the place. So knowing that you're of that and your stories are coming out of that place kind of helped me with the work and in the architecture that I've been generating for the last decade, and particularly going to other people's country around New South Wales and Victoria and Queensland, and you get out and you smell something different, you taste something different, and then it just followed that I couldn't understand why, as architects, there's buildings being made that just completely fracture that relationship and fracture those sensory experiences. So that's the thing I've been pursuing for some time. So it's
So you brought that with you, in a
absolutely,
sense,
yeah,
from Kirrawee,
yeah.
from Hammond, yeah,
Yeah.
into other countries. Yeah. Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah, so when I'm in someone else's place, so it's to understand what's special about that place from that country, and the only way you can find out about that is to talk to those people who are the owners of that country. So, and it's a genuine way into architecture, I think. So.
I guess with me working in many communities, even remote communities as a filmmaker, you get to travel a lot. And for me, when I go in and work, I don't necessarily go in to shoot a culture. I actually go in there to shoot a really good story, because basically I'm very interested in human stories, I guess regardless of background. But I guess for me, growing up in Cairns, I don't know, my parents here, I was a bit of a mongrel kid when I was a bit younger. And I guess going back to the Queen and I could really, what really fused me to actually do that story was I met one of my long-lost cousins on my father's side, his brother's grandson, had a conversation with him, and he had no idea who I was or anything like that, or who we were on that side of the family, and he was asking questions. And one of the things that really struck me was, his name was Derek Watkin, sorry, and it was funny because his last name was Derek Watkins, put the S on their name, and my name is Douglas Watkin. So yeah, it was kind of weird just talking to him, because he played football and all that stuff, and he looked a bit like me, except he was a bit more rougher and less Nancy boy like myself. No, but no, but what he getting off track here, sorry. But what we spoke about in that conversation was he was bringing up things like, what was my granddad like, which is uncle to me, but he just had no idea who he was, and then he said, "Oh, that's our great grandma Watkin," and that's a name I have not heard, because my grandmother passed away in the late 1989. Yep, and I was in year 10 when that happened. It was a very sad time, and for us, for me, him to say that, it was kind of a bit freaky, because that's a word. When he said great grandma Watkin, I haven't heard that name for a very long time, and it really fused me to really push on with the story. So I guess if you ever have a time or an opportunity to have a look at the Queen and I, it focuses on my grandmother, and the thing about my grandmother being a single parent. I mean, there was two brothers, but being a single parent, especially back in the early 30s, 40s, growing up in that time, and with regards to racism, I remember my dad used to tell me stories. Sorry if I can tell this, but when Dad was growing up, he would be with his cousins, and they would go to a pub, and his other cousins couldn't get in because he was, they were dark, but my dad could get in. They said, "No, you fellas can't get in, but you can get in." So, sorry, just going off track again, sorry. So, getting back to the Queen and I guess what I wanted to do was to make a story for not only my future family, but for my small nephews, so they have an understanding on who their great-grandmother, was.
Yeah. That's great. Destiny, you used a word that...
Which one?
Renaissance was the word that I was going to pick up.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, but
Just to grab this again.
the last of the questions I asked you in the catalogue, and by the way, the catalogue is absolutely fantastic, everybody. $49.95, available at all of the outlets across the entire cultural precinct, and it's an absolute rip snorter. I'll hold it up later on. in that conversation, which I so enjoyed working with all of you on, the last question I asked you was about your future ambitions for Torres Strait Islander culture, or your work as artists, architects, filmmakers, musicians, what your ambitions would be for the future for that cultural work as part of the Australian society. Now, you spoke about Renaissance and about what's been happening, about how you all know about each other's work. So I'd love to throw to the panel that sense of Renaissance, because that's actually why we decided to do the show, because there's so much going on in Torres Strait Islander contemporary art. It was just so clear that there was such a lot of new work that needed to be brought to broader audiences. So would you talk about that sense of what's going on for us and what you want to see happening in the future?
Do you want to start, Ricardo?
I
forget I'm an old teacher, sorry.
The Renaissance was your word, you go with it.
And is Sheila here? Okay.
Hello.
Chewy out of my mouth. I don't know, because I live in Melbourne, which is a long way away, to get to Arab and Darnley, or Darnley Arab, it's the same thing, I've only gone up for funerals and marriages and tombstones and stuff. It costs you more to go to London, New York or Paris. And you get there and it's a third world country. And, and everything costs a fortune. The stores, with no-name products, baked beans, a lettuce for $6 or something. It's not even any good, and things like that. And who'd bother buying a lettuce anyway? But I checked it out. But things like that. And the young people doing this and doing that. It's a really sort of like a big shock for me to go back, to my ancestral home. But I hear that things are changing, and there's cultural things happening and what have you. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like you don't feel like you're. I don't know. It's another world and stuff. It's a really interesting thing. And I met people, from Melbourne and Sydney, Queensland, whatever. They've never been. They're Torres Strait. They've never even been up to the islands. It's like I don't know, or maybe they're banned. I don't know what the laws are these days. But so it's just really strange. But I don't know. But my idea of the culture and my artwork is just sort of I don't know. We do have a story, and I come from a rich heritage, and I'm proud of it. And since I was a little girl, Mum drummed the language, the story. Oh, I need a violin to Stradivarius at that to tell the story about how we came, from Douglas Pitt, that came from here, and he shot a man in Noumea in a duel, and grabbed a shopai from where New Caledonia is, but Lifu, which I've been there. And he had a boat industry and stuff, and a lot of the guys he bought from the Melanesian guys to come into the Torres Strait and into there and what have you, and wanted to start up a business. And the Jardines got the business, But, if you read your history books, you'll find out about them, and they're rich, and we got nothing, and and all that sort of thing. But anyway, made new blood to the island, I'll tell you what, and and so sort of that sort of family and all that kind of thing, and all that sort of stuff, and so I know about the dances, I know about the language, I know that there's lots of weaving, and I know that all the and it's just exactly the same as Lifu Island, and all that. The culture is exactly the same and what have you. But nobody takes photos. And poor bugger me, that's why I'm a bum artist, it's, into photography and stuff. But the message is the same, is just to teach culture or just teach ideas. And like I said, it's about, it's about Australia, and it's about racism, it's about us as Indigenous people, basically. We're all in the same boat. And I don't know, and it's also a universal thing, with life as it is, and where we're going, and we've got to sort of, I am a political artist, believe it or not. You probably don't see it by the photos with the girls with their frocks on and stuff, but that's a political act for them to wear them.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, and just the, I don't know, but we were aware of our culture and that kind of thing.
Maybe by working with the girls and persuading them to wear their
There were
Marys.
boys too. There were
And the
too.
boys who were wearing their suspenders, which you told
Which
me
I
you
had
had
to
to
hire. I
hire,
had to hire.
because nobody had suspenders.
I had to hire them from Rose Chong, which they supply for Australian movies. Yeah, yeah.
But maybe by working with them, working with
Believe it
the
or
young
not.
people from your family and your brothers and your sisters, but working with the youngsters, maybe that is a kind of politicising
Yeah.
experience, a cultural experience. They've learned something different.
Yeah, and being in Melbourne, Ricardo would know, I don't know, we're aware of our culture and stuff, and an Islander comes to town, hey Ricardo, yeah, we run, no, but they're usually on the run and stuff, yeah, it's just sort of so different, and but we still can relate straight away, and where you're from, this east, but the thing is, east or west.
I think Destiny
Here we go,
nailed
bud.
something here about
Go, brother.
history when she said history. I fascinated about my own history, about Torres Strait history. And I like to read books, thanks to Margaret Laurie, those, and it's but living in Melbourne, you can you don't get many of those many families visiting me and talking. So I like to read books and glean what I can. Going home, talking to people, but more when you have the library. You go and you research your own history. And let's face it. Us, the art practitioners, we cannot bluff academics anymore. Bob Marley said you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And he was a good songwriter.
He was. I wanted to open up to the floor, but just give Kevin and Douglas a chance if they wanted to talk about the sense of the kind of vibrancy and energy in cultural work happening today. Anything to contribute there? I think he's throwing to you, Kevin.
Well, I think this exhibition, we had a sneak preview of the exhibition on that Thursday night after our screening, and we thought it was absolutely amazing because, at the time, there's been normally a stereotype to what Torres Strait Islander art actually is, and seeing all the diverse, it's just wow. It's taken many years. I remember being a young uni student going to the Queensland Art Gallery before this thing was ever built, next door, seeing what most of the art either had to be dead or, I don't know, old. But, just such, diverse, work, being shown at the gallery. Which...
Well, look, I haven't actually seen the exhibition yet, so I can't say.
It's good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's bad.
What's your favourite piece?
Yeah?
What's your favourite
The Queen
piece?
and I, that's my favourite piece. No.
Actually, I do think it's good, but we have just a special chance before we have to wind up, which is to ask you what questions you would like to throw or comments you'd like to make, or anybody who wants to this is your chance. I need, yes, in the front row, please. I might repeat the question if we can't. So.
After listening to this conversation and an earlier conversation I attended this afternoon over at the State Library with people from the Vanguard Dance Company, it seems to me that the survival of the Torres Strait Island culture depends very much on the arts, because we read about so many islanders now living on the mainland and so on and so forth, and it seems that it's through the arts that the culture will survive to the future, and I wondered if people would like to comment about that. And I include in the arts literature, and I think mention this, it's difficult to get literature. Margaret Laurie's wonderful book now out of print, but it's very difficult when you want to find out something about the culture to do so, and I'll do a plug for the catalogue, at least there's a starting point there. So that's just a few observations.
Did everybody up the back hear that? Okay, great. Well, are you... So that's a question, yeah?
I'll say something. I don't know if arts is the only thing. I'm going to quote Richie. I think art is a white thing. I don't think art was around 200 years ago, and culture survived well as it did.
Could I just say, one of the reasons I made that statement is that when I was at the previous session, Elmer was saying that the young people now in the Torres Strait don't listen to the older people the way they used to in the past. And other things that she said have just got me thinking, well, if they're not listening, what change is this going to mean in the long term? And it did seem that the arts was one way in which something could be done to perpetuate the culture.
No, I understand your question. I guess what I'm saying is that it's not the only way. So I think that's what you have to understand, is that you can record as much as you like. That doesn't mean you know it. So the smartest thing I ever heard was an elder from Tully. He showed medicinal plants at a conference, and someone asked him the same thing, why don't you record all this and write it down? And he said, that's not how you learn it. You learn this one at a time. So I think, not totally rejecting what you're saying, but I think it's somewhere in between, because there's other people around that you never see and you'll never meet. And they, in my mind, know more about culture, and they're the people I've always talked to, that I express it in architecture, or these guys express it in photography, or carving, or animation is, I guess, at the pointy end of it. But I certainly don't think, as powerful as the arts are and how we understand it here, I don't think it's the only means of courage.
So you're seeing the arts as like a tip of the iceberg expression of iceberg in the Torres Strait. That's not going to work, is it? But it's an expression of something. There's a lady over here.
I've recently had the pleasure of spending the last 15 months working with young emerging artists and fans, and a great deal of them work from the islands. Douglas brought this up very briefly, but a lot of the artists that I've talked to feel this pressure to kind of conform to certain stereotypes of Torres Strait Islander arts. And I was wondering if you could comment on what kind of advice you would give to people who don't necessarily know traditional carving and traditional weaving, but want to express their contemporary indigenous identity through the visual arts. What kind of advice would you give them in struggling with this kind of growing stereotype of what they should do versus what they would really like to do?
Did everyone hear that? Good.
Can I say?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Go.
I'm just talking on Murray Island perspective, but our way of teaching young kids is like totally different to classrooms kind of thing. It's doing. If I'm doing something, my little brother has to beat the mark. See, he has to. It's a competition thing. So if someone's really good at say spearing dugong, he's only got say 20. Sorry, in Murray Island we don't spear dugongs, we don't have any there, but but generally, I'm just making an example. But it's like it's not, if you sit a person down and start teaching them things, they're learning what you teach them. They're not going to find out for themselves how they will do it. But if you set a precedent, if you set your own mark, if they want to go further than you, they will do it themselves. Yeah. Okay.
I have to say that it has occurred to us that may have been happening in printmaking by some Torres Strait Islander artists. I can see some really, really kind of energetic, kind of like going one better, and people do. Richie, you had a question.
Yeah, Douglas Pitt, was it related to William Pitt,
No, I don't know. No, there's a lot of romance stories about it. But
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Richard Bell. Artist, yeah. Thank you, Richard.
yeah, my boyfriend that came to see me, Moed. Yeah, no, but I come from his son, Edward, and there was Douglas Jr. and there was Edward, and I come from the Edward side. Edward's the nice man. Yeah.
Were you thinking of William Pitt the older or the younger there, Richard?
Well, family legend has it. Yeah. Family legend. Well, it comes from. They come from Jamaica. I told you, it came from Jamaica apparently, and but it was a chambermaid or something from a pit thing, but supposedly, but a relation to the pit, okay? You know, one thing happens after another, and then, yeah, and he was born and stuff, but he was a big man. He was like 6'6" and 6'7" or something, and like a black pirate, and yeah, so he travelled, you know, on the boats and the ships and stuff and what have you, and ended up in Noumea, where I told you he had a duel with a Frenchman, bang, and he killed him, and he went to Lifu Island and kidnapped the chief's daughter, and took her to the Torres Straits, and the chief sent his son to look for the daughter, and the son was never seen again. He just got lost, you know. Oh, it's tragic, but anyway, yeah. So Douglas Pitt's I've seen his grave. It's in Thursday Island and stuff like that, and he had a few kids and stuff, and a couple of wives. You know, who doesn't? And that kind of thing. And you know, but yeah, so we're from that. But we're from his son. Yeah, not Douglas Jr. We're from the Edward side. Yeah, the normal son that he had. I think Douglas Jr. was a bit different. Yeah, yeah.
Douglas,
the father.
Douglas Watkin. There is a movie waiting to be made.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I've been given that name from the Douglas Pitt. I think
You have?
Yeah. There's a street named after me up in TI. So
Douglas Pitt Street. Douglas.
I thought we had the street in Sydney, Pitt Street.
Pitt Street. Oh yeah, Sydney. Yeah, we got the Pitt. We got the Sydney.
Yeah, that's
crew
right.
covered
You're right
there.
down the.
But no, it's sort of all this sort of story. But anyway, like we say, we breed like rabbits, and there's heaps of us. Yeah, and yeah.
Relation.
Yeah, but my mum told us that the straight history and the straight line of things. So yeah, and this, that, and the other, and yeah, she had a lot of knowledge and stuff. I can tell you what about the islands, and knew where everything was buried, and it was amazing. I tell you what. Gee, I need like I said, I need a Stradivarius to tell it.
I'll see if I can find one. I know there's going to be one in the vicinity quite soon, seriously. Any other last questions before we have to wrap? Oh, up here, yes, thank you.
I just want to make a comment. Just want to acknowledge country we're on and also elders
Good.
here today.
Good.
And
Good.
past as well. And I just want to acknowledge all of you, you artists up here on this panel, and congratulate you for your work. And we know that, and I know that as a fellow Torres Strait Islander and relative to some of you up here, that you know, the spirit of your ancestors are here with us today and are within you and within your work. And I just want to say that we see that and we acknowledge that. And God bless you for that work. And please continue with that work. And it will live on beyond your years for all of us. So I want to thank you and congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can't think of a more beautiful way to draw the session to a close. So unless anybody has any final comments, I'd invite you to come and meet Ricardo, Destiny, Kevin and Douglas afterwards. And thank you all very much for being such an attentive, generous audience. Thank you again. Thank you, panel.